Hey, what's happening, y'all? Welcome back to the Media Goose channel. It is I, the Media Goose, your friend Ryan, and the goose is loose, baby. Hey, I'm coming at you today to talk a little NFL, specifically my New York Giants. I am here to do a full offseason review for Big Blue. I'm not going to do this for every team, but I will do a division by division breakdown. I'm going to talk for a while about the Giants today, their entire offseason, more in depth than I intend on covering the other teams. Because I'm a Giants fan. I know this team. I know how every player on this team got on this roster. I know this roster up and down. And I am so thrilled with how this offseason went. So this year, I kind of want to cover the Giants all through the NFL season. Maybe eventually get invited on Giants, I don't know, podcasts where people invite content creators. That would be sick. So we'll see. But it starts here with a review of the entire offseason. And I think there's no other place to start than with the new head coach of the Giants, John Harbaugh. He won a Super Bowl for Baltimore. He was there for about 18 years. I think he had a few opportunities to win more than one Super Bowl, but we know how hard that is in the NFL. Not everybody. I mean, there are the rare guys like Mahomes and Brady, but most guys aren't repeating or having multiple rings in their career. So I'm not going to hold that against the guy. I can just tell that this offseason, it's been like there is an adult in the room for the first time since Tom Coughlin left. This is a mature organization. This is a professional organization. They did things the right way. They didn't try to fill holes with overpaid veterans. They didn't do the 2016 thing where they gave out massive deals to Jackrabbit, Olivier Vernon, and Snacks. They made a lot of really good in the margins moves. I was kind of nervous that before Harbaugh came in, I was afraid that with Joe Schoen on the hot seat, he would do what Gettleman did in 2016 and just waste money on veterans so that you immediately raise the floor of your team. That was not what the Giants did here at all. They have added in the trenches on both sides of the ball. They have added to the skill positions. I feel like they have done so much to help Jackson Dart in his development. And I am so excited. John Harbaugh, just the way he answers questions in press conferences with the media is so much more mature than the Giants have had in years. There are so many little things like that are night and day for Giants fans that teams of other fans might not get because we have had inadequate fools as our head coaches. Love you, Dabes. You're not a head coach. You might be a great offensive coordinator. You're not a head coach. You're too much of a hothead. Ben McAdoo. Christ, if they had let him trade up like you wanted to, the Giants might have had Pat Mahomes. But Pat Shurmur was another who cares hire. So this is a real head coach for the first time in a long time. And this offseason shows you the importance of that. And the fact that Harbaugh got final say over the roster ahead of Joe Schoen. It was basically like, Joe, you can stay if you're comfortable losing your authority to John Harbaugh. And he agreed with it. Good for him. Because Harbaugh could be the person who decides Joe Schoen's fate of whether he's there next offseason when Harbaugh has the ability to fully implement the kind of players he wants. It's not his first offseason. Or if Harbaugh's going to go get his own guy. So I think it was smart for Joe Schoen to do what he did. And if it were up to me before the Harbaugh thing, I thought Schoen should have been fired. But apparently he's good with scouting. So if Harbaugh's good with him, I'm good with him. I don't care. So, y'all, we're going to start getting into the offseason. I'm going to first talk about the key subtractions this team experienced. So the biggest subtraction, somebody a lot of Giants fans didn't want to see go, but I think he had to, Dexter Lawrence. Dex didn't give a shit last year. He was looking for an extension in the preseason. He showed up overweight, like a lot overweight. And when he didn't get the extension he wanted, he never put in a full effort. He quit on the New York Giants. He has yet to thank New York Giants fans for his time in New York. Dexter Lawrence, fuck you. I hope you never win a playoff game in Cincinnati, you coward. Not saying anything to the fan base that supported you for your entire career. You're pathetic. I'm glad he's gone and we got a better player with Francis Mauigoa. Francis Mauigoa is going to help is going to help build the team identity, I should say. And I don't want a guy who will quit on a team like Dex did last year. If you watched the Giants last year, you know he was not trying. He wasn't. He was dogging it. He wasn't doing it. So, Dex, go to hell. Bobby Okereke got cut. That makes sense. He was rough his last year. Wan'Dale Robinson was the most overrated player on the Giants, in my opinion. Slot receivers are a dime a dozen. I was never interested in giving him $20 million. Hell no. I wouldn't have went above 15 for Wan'Dale. It was a crazy overpay. And I think Darnell Mooney, they got for 1 year, $10 million. I think he is as productive as Wan'Dale this year, if not more. In fact, I think I'll save him for the addition section, but Wan'Dale's not a loss. He was a reach by Joe Shane in the second round. He still isn't worth the second round pick, and he damn sure ain't worth $20 million. Then Daniel Bellinger and Cordell Flott are gone. Robinson, Bellinger, and Flott all went to Tennessee. Good luck, Dable. You couldn't win with them in New York, so what's going to be different in Tennessee? I think Tennessee will be firing all of their coaching staff will be turned over within the next 2 years. Dable will be fired back at Alabama. Salo will be back with the 49ers running their defensive line, and they'll be looking for somebody new. And so Bellinger, Cordell Flott, Dane Belton kind of sucks. I liked watching Dane Belton a lot. Real, kind of like a glue guy, high effort, special teamer. Anytime there was injuries in the safety room, he stepped up. So that was hard to lose. Austin Schlottman, I think he went to Tennessee as well. He was a solid replacement for John Michael Schmitz at center, but not really somebody I'll miss. Rakeem Nunez-Roches and Casey Crater, our long snapper. So I really, besides Dexter Lawrence, I don't think the Giants lost, difference maker players. Cordell Flott, I think last year might have been the best year he'll ever have in the league. I don't like the idea of paying a guy off of an anomaly season because it's more likely he regresses to the mean of what he was. Yeah, but I don't think anybody on that list is like, oh no, because even with Dex, the culture is why he's gone. He's not a culture fit. He quit on us. He came in wildly overweight, so fuck that guy. Then we re-signed Jermaine Illuminor, one of the most important deals of the offseason, bringing in our right tackle. He has so solidified a position that has been in flux for the Giants since, Kareem McKenzie left it. They gave him, I think it was 3 years, 36. It's a great deal. I think he's a top 10 to 15 right tackle in football. He proved that last year, and having him and Andrew Thomas on the bookends at tackle just so raised the floor of this offensive line. And the offensive line last year was the best part of the Giants, arguably. They took steps in ways I didn't think they would. You could say that was because of the offensive line coach they brought in, who went with Dable to Tennessee, but Greg Van Roten played really well last year. John Runyon was a solid guard. JMS is 50-50. I really want to see him take the next step, so hopefully he does this year. But Jermaine Illuminor was our biggest re-signing. We also brought back Evan Neal. I think that's just like a developmental flyer in the way that Daniel Falele just became like a huge mauler for Harbaugh, even if he wasn't that technically proficient. That might be Evan Neal's future. Isaiah Hodgins was a good pickup. He should have never left the Giants. Joe Shane's an idiot. Hodgins should have been on the roster the last 2 years. How is that guy a free agent, not on the roster, and Jalen Hyatt has a spot on this team? Another reason that Joe Shane really didn't deserve to keep this position. We restructured Devin Singletary's contract, so he's the third running back, and we brought back Micah McFadden on a cheap 1-year deal. With the additions we made at linebacker, he's no longer a starter, which I think is the best case scenario for McFadden as like the first linebacker off the bench where he can play weak side or in the middle. And that's going to wrap it up for the re-signings. Now let's get into free agency. So free agency, I don't think it was that surprising to see Harbaugh bring over so many Ravens guys. Makes a lot of sense. Before I get into free agency, let me talk about our coordinators. We brought in Matt Nagy at offensive coordinator and Denard Wilson at defensive coordinator. So everybody knows that the offensive coordinator was supposed to be Todd Monken, but the Browns idiotically hired him to be their head coach. The Browns are so inept and incompetent, they should have promoted Jim Schwartz to have that continuity on the defensive side of the ball. For the last 5 years, your elite unit, and you don't promote that guy. You're a fucking idiot. Jim Schwartz should be the head coach of the Browns, so then Todd Monken could be our offensive coordinator. But they had to pivot because the Browns are idiots. And we brought in Matt Nagy, and I've seen a lot of people tell me why it's terrible. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. He had a lot of experience with the Bears, and the Bears kind of sucked back then. I'd like to see any coach do anything with Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky and Daniel Jones are like the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. They are both overdrafted scrubs who got drafted over more deserving black men. I'll just throw that out there because the league always picks some random white guys to decide are better quarterbacks than proven black men. And Matt Nagy's been in Kansas City for the past 5 years, learning under Andy Reid, working with Patrick Mahomes. If you don't think that has a very high tangible impact, you're an idiot. And I think that it's not just Matt Nagy. Greg Roman's there as the run game coordinator. There's somebody else as the pass game coordinator, Brian Callahan from Tennessee. The Giants very quickly developed one of the most veteran coaching staffs in the entire NFL. And that is the power that John Harbaugh has. So, no, I'm not really afraid that Matt Nagy's our offensive coordinator because he's been in the room with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes for 5 years. Because he's been running offenses his entire career. Because he has multiple other veteran offensive minds on that staff with him. So yeah, if you want to say in a vacuum Matt Nagy is something, whatever. Nothing exists in a vacuum. So I'm really excited for the group of coaches the Giants brought together because, like I said, they're veteran. And a lot of these guys brought in guys that they know will work in their system. One of the guys Matt Nagy brought in that had a lot of success with Matt Nagy is Darnell Mooney. He was in Chicago when he had some of his best years with Nagy. And I think Mooney might be the wide receiver or the free agency signing that is most being slept on for the Giants. I think Darnell Mooney could have an 800-yard, 5-touchdown kind of season, which would be probably the best number 2 wide receiver the Giants have had in a minute. I don't think there's going to be any real fall off between him and Wan'Dale. I really don't. And when you consider all the other guys the Giants got in the room, they signed Calvin Austin as well as a wide receiver. They drafted Malachi Fields to have a different body type. Isaiah Hodgins, like I mentioned, Malik Neighbors is coming back. Darius Slayton is still around, hopefully to be cut so that Odell can come back. But yeah, I think Darnell Mooney's a sneaky great signing who he will likely outplay his $3 million guaranteed contract. Arguably the biggest free agent signing was Isaiah Likely at tight end. They gave him about 3 years, 48. I'm good with that money. I like Isaiah Likely a lot. For the last few years in Madden, I've always traded for him because he was buried behind Mark Andrews, but he's big, he's physical, he's kind of like the archetype of the athletic tight end. I think he's going to play a lot of slot wide receiver for the Giants. I think they're going to have a lot of 2 tight end formations with Theo Johnson, who proved he had rapport with Jackson Dart. And you can have him at tight end, and you can have Isaiah Likely in the slot. You can switch those because of how athletic Theo is. I love this signing. This is probably my favorite free agency signing because you didn't have to pay him like... The wide receiver market was really expensive this offseason, and you didn't have to pay an Alec Pierce or trade a first or second round pick for a guy. You went and got a guy that John Harbaugh knows he's comfortable with, and he's going to have so much flexibility in the way that he's used. I'm incredibly excited for Isaiah Likely, and I think he could be a breakout player, maybe even a Pro Bowler. I think he has that kind of potential. And with Nagy, I think it's likely there will be multiple tight end systems a lot. And then you have Patrick Ricard that they brought in, a 300-pound fullback, basically a 6th offensive lineman. So you have 2 incredibly athletic tight ends who can make really flashy plays. And then you also brought in just a whale of a human in Patrick Ricard. Love that. I mentioned Calvin Austin from the Steelers. I think he's like maybe our 5th or 6th receiver, but he's a lot better than Jalen Hyatt, so I'm good with it. We fixed our special teams. This is huge, bringing in Jason Sanders, the kicker from Miami, and Jordan Stout, the punter from the Ravens. Jordan Stout's been one of the best punters in the league for the last few years. I think Jason Sanders was out last year, but he's been one of the more consistent NFL kickers over the last 5 to 8 years. And they also brought in Zach Triner to be the long snapper. I am so excited. I feel like the Giants have had awful special teams for a long time. One of the things that Brian Daboll was worst at was handling kicking situations when he either had hurt kickers or punters. The amount of games the Giants played in the last 2 to 3 years where they had no kicker. None. It was inexcusable, frankly. So I think the Giants could have one of the best special team units in the league this year, which if you're a Giants fan, you know that's like, holy shit. Then let's jump over to the defense where they brought in a lot of guys. Tremaine Edmonds, 3 years, 36. I love that. He's only like 27 or 28. And I think that he's going to be the green dot player in the defense. I think once they signed him, they became less likely to take Sonny Styles because I think Styles and Edmonds play similar roles. So that's another reason why I love the Arvell Reese pick, because him and Tremaine Edmonds are not the same player like Sonny Styles and Edmonds kind of are. I think having Tremaine as the green dot player, Justin Pennick over at Talkin' Giants brought up the idea that Reese should be allowed to be like the wild card, running all over the place, blitzing, and I love that. I think Tremaine Edmonds is going to really raise the floor of that defense. And they also brought in our Darius Washington and Jason Pinnock. Jason Pinnock, a former safety coming back. Our Darius is another former Baltimore Raven. And those 2 guys, I think, are great to adding depth to the safety room. So much of the Giants' offseason was adding professional depth throughout this roster. Then we get to the Greg Newsome, Elijah Campbell, some more secondary help. I think Newsome Before the Colton Hood pick, I was pretty sure Newsome would start. I kind of think Colton Hood's going to start over Greg Newsome, and Newsome will have to fight it out with Andrew Phillips for some slot playing time. Then the overhaul of the defensive tackle room. I almost did a video on its own last week when the Giants signed DJ Reader, but I held off. This is excellent. Fuck Dexter Lawrence. I'm good with this. I think our defensive tackle room is better than it was last year. We brought in DJ Reader. He was the most double-team nose tackle in football last year. He is excellent against the run. He's been productive as a pass rusher as well. Shelby Harris. Those two, DJ Reader and Shelby Harris, are probably your starters. And Shelby Harris has been more productive than DJ Reader on the defensive line in terms of more sacks, more tackles for loss, more pressures. So it's a diverse skill set between those two. Then we have Sam Roberts and Lecky Fotu at defensive tackle as well. So the Giants just totally revamped that position, and I'm thrilled. I think DJ Reader, Shelby Harris, Darius Alexander are probably the three most active players. They also got Zach Pickens off the Chiefs. I think they did an excellent job shoring up that defensive line. John Harbaugh said he wanted to have the best trench units in football, and this offseason plan really showed that. And then we had a couple depth signings on the offensive line with Daniel Falele and Lucas Patrick. Two guys I would have been upset if they had to start, but they don't. They're just more adults in the room for depth, and I love that. Then we're going to go into the draft and undrafted players. So at 5 overall, the Giants got, in my opinion, the best player in the draft for the second year in a row when they drafted Arvell Reese. I had him as my number one player, no doubt in my mind. I think that he's going to be a great linebacker that in a couple years might replace Brian Burns as an edge rusher. And him and Abdul Carter pass rushing on opposite sides of a defense. The two guys who in the last two drafts were both compared to Micah Parsons. That's crazy. His athleticism is nuts. His sideline to sideline, his run defense is great. That's another big thing. The Giants were one of the worst run defending teams in football. And DJ Reader, Shelby Harris, Sam Roberts, Tremaine Edmonds, and Arvell Reese all go into helping that. Then we got Francis Mawanoa, our starting right guard at number 10 overall. And Shane and Harbaugh were ecstatic, talking about how these were two top 5 players on their board, and in no scenario that they did they walk away with these two players. I thought they would have to take Mawanoa at 5 if they were going to get him. So getting him at 10 was kind of crazy. I'm so thoroughly excited for those two. I think they are such identity-changing picks. Colton Hood was another great pick. He should have been a first-rounder. Big, physical. He already had a highlight reel interception at training camp, so I think he'll be a starter. I think he'll start opposite of Paulson Adebo. I think that was a great pick. I love the Malachi Fields pick as well. I know some people find it divisive that they gave up so much capital. I don't mind. If you identify a guy as somebody you want, go get him. And the fact that he is one of the best run blockers at the wide receiver position in the draft class, I think also contributes to the identity that they want to form. Then they bring in Bobby Jamison Travis, a good developmental nose tackle. J.C. Davis, another swing tackle, and Jack Kelly, a linebacker. Those last 3 guys all could have went anywhere from the 5th to 6th round, so I thought they were good value. And then they got great value at the undrafted positions as well. Thaddeus Dixon was a cornerback at North Carolina who really could have been drafted. Kind of shocking he didn't get drafted. Anquan Barnes Jr., defensive tackle from Colorado. Ben Barton, another D tackle. Ryan Chernecki, Dominic Zaveda, the kicker, and Ben Mann, a long snapper. The Giants draft and their undrafted process, I just so love the process. The players they took when, the system fits that they got, the guys that fit the identity they're trying to form. I am so thrilled to say that I think the Giants had one of the best off seasons in the NFL. They have so they did so much to improve the supporting cast around Jackson Dart with Isaiah Likely, a diverse offensive weapon, Darnell Mooney, Francis Mawanoa at right guard. I love our running back room. I know that there was a lot of speculation about new guys coming in, but Scat, Tracy, and Singletary is really solid. Um, I like Darnell Mooney as a flyer, who I think will outperform his contract. I think Odell could still end up here. I'm looking at a depth chart on my laptop. That's why I'm kind of looking past. And of course, as soon as I go to fucking use it, an ad starts. I just want to see if I missed anything on the defense in terms of new players. No, looks like I got everybody here as well. I think that the players I'm most excited about this year, Abdul Carter with a full year with a competent defensive coordinator, not that asshat Shane Bowen. Brian Burns had an all-pro year last year. I think our linebackers are going to be great. I think the two biggest sleepers on this team who could make big impacts are Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin. I love Tyler Nubin coming out, and he did not look good in his first couple of years, but maybe he can get revived in the Denard Wilson, John Harbaugh system. And Javon Holland's just a sick player. I was so excited when they brought him in, and he just wasn't used that well, in my opinion. So I think the safeties could also be a lot more productive this year. So, guys, give me your thoughts on the New York Giants. I'm so excited to have an adult running this team again. This was one of the most coherent, well thought out off seasons the Giants have had in a very long time, and I am so excited for this year. I think this team at worst is like a 7-10 team who could go over 500 as well, depending how certain things break. So guys, let me know what you thought of the New York Giants offseason down below. I'm going to start my division by division offseason reviews very soon. Keep an eye out. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, join the Goose's flock. The Goose is out.